Emmanuel Touhey?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm the web editor at C-SPAN, so basically I oversee all this live streaming.
So we're getting into Thomas Paine this weekend for the we're having this Thomas Paine festival. And when I wrote Howard about this earlier, I figured you guys had something going, but you got more going than I ever imagined.
Well, it's funny because
spectacular.
Yeah, well, I was looking for some ideas because one of the things that I do is try and unearth content, because we've what, 300,000 hours of content over 46 years.
Unbelievable.
And you could spend the rest of your life and still not see a whole lot of it. Yeah. So we're always trying, between myself and Howard for his podcast and me working online, we're always looking for kind of good content that's buried in the pile.
Yeah.
And I like Thomas Paine. I've always been interested in him as a historical figure. So I didn't know until a couple of weeks ago that the publication date was January 10, and I was looking for something. And then I realized, well, it's not only January 10, it's January 10, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
And so given that it's America 250 and it's our 250th birthday, I said, well, why not see what I can find in our library, and unearthed some of it. And so what this page basically is my findings going through and some of our resources and links to important historical sites that are relevant to Thomas Paine and so on. So
yeah, I'm going to put the link up on the page when I edit all this. And but on this page, you've got over here on the right all these resources, and you've even got the Thomas Paine cottage and different things. And then we roll down, and then it's just amazing, all these videos and such a variety. Talk about some of the variety of things you've got here.
Well, he's a figure that keeps popping up in conversation and in history and throughout our archive. I mean, one of the things that I found just going through the archive is the number of political thinkers over the years, decades, centuries, that have been mentioned on C-SPAN and either covered in books and whatnot. And Thomas Paine is one of them. John Locke, I think, is the one that's most covered and most mentioned, not most covered, but most mentioned on our side of all the political thinkers that we might be thinking about. But with regard to Thomas Paine and these programs here, probably the most recent one that we did was we did a series on books that shaped America. And the first program on that was Common Sense, looking at Thomas Paine's pamphlet from 1776. And we had some experts in to talk about, go through the text, how it kind of galvanized the nation behind the cause for independence over reconciliation. We've done a number of interviews on Book TV with authors. We've had book talks. I think one of the most interesting things that I found in putting this page together, if you just scroll up there a little bit, there's a guy here, right? Stop right there. Just go back there, Mark Skazin. I was listening to his talk the other day, and what I learned in the course of gathering this content was that there were three major bestsellers in 1776. The first was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, followed by I think Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, and then Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
Where did the Bible fit in? What about the Bible?
Yeah, well, I don't know. But what's interesting, it's funny you mentioned the Bible. Thomas Paine was himself a deist, but yet the language that he used and a lot of the references that he used in his
when you say deist, you mean
sense.
what we Southerners would say, deist?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he used a lot of biblical references and kind of arguments to make his case, which is interesting because he knew he was talking to the common man. He knew who his audience was, and the way to connect with them was, if you like, through the Bible. And it's the only book, I believe, that's mentioned in the course of Common Sense. So I thought that was interesting. But the fact that you had these three seminal books that were written in 1776, all in England or Scotland or whatever, and here in the US, and all in the same year, is quite a pivotal time in history.
Well, we have a historian on our who's a regular on our pages, and she found this morning that I found was so interesting, which you may know about, is the details of his death and burial
Right.
are truly bizarre.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
buried all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, there has been a search to try and get his bones, and I think I don't know if part of his skull or something has been retrieved by one of the Thomas Paine historical sites. I can't remember exactly which part, but they have learned and heard of various claims of bones belonging to Thomas Paine, and they are looking to retrieve as many as they can, and also to inter the ones that they do have. Now, whether they've done that or not, or in the process, I don't know. But he was there, and then until he wasn't, and
Yeah.
and then he disappeared. And the path to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say. He never got buried, and so, as you can imagine, back in the early 19th century when he died, bones getting lost probably could have been a very easy thing.
Because the lesser known work in his later life was The Age of Reason, and that made him something of a pariah,
Right.
to Christians in particular.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess that led to how he was so dismissed in death and almost rejected, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that he was probably selected for the gig of writing this. I mean, he wanted to write it himself, but I think the colonists at the time were quite comfortable with him writing it, so their hands weren't on it. And he would write it and make the arguments that he wanted to make. But after it had done the job that they wanted it to do, I think that he always believed whatever he always believed, but I think he was probably too radical for the times. And they said, well, this guy was good for us for a while, but maybe not so much now. And he was a difficult character by all accounts.
Yeah.
I know he worked with and live with. So
he even said some unpleasant things about George Washington, which was
right.
was really,
well, he blamed Washington for his extended imprisonment in France. And whether or not that's true, he blamed Washington and wrote a nasty letter to Washington, which I think was intercepted and not sent to him, or prevented from getting to Washington. But these guys were probably very intense in their own way, and I suppose he was a very intense character himself, judging by the historical accounts about him and what's being retrieved by historians.
Because once he got our revolution, once he got our revolution started, then and we got that all sorted out. Then he went over to France and got involved in theirs. I mean, this guy was dedicated. Wherever there's revolution, he was there.
I mean, the thing is, he was a citizen of 3 countries: Britain, United States, and France. Insofar as you could have citizenship, like, it wasn't as formalized as it is today, but he had citizenship for all 3 places. But he fell afoul of the regime after the revolution in France, found himself behind bars, and there he waited until he was pulled out of there and made his way back. And my understanding is that he didn't come back to the US until he got an invitation from Jefferson, and then made his way back. And there's a lot being said about the relationship between Jefferson and Paine in terms of their probably political alignment. But I think even for Jefferson, his comments about religion, established religion, and Christianity, even if they were in agreement, might perhaps have been challenging for Jefferson at a time when he was still a politician and wanted the support of as many people as possible while he was in the White House.
So I mean, in today's terms, he was a hothead influencer. and I want to get back into the actual impact of common sense. This is our site today. We got his picture up here. I'm asking people to help me write a new common sense for our times today. But talk a little bit about why common sense was so different in its impact then on getting the grassroots folks who maybe thought of the revolution as just a bunch of elitists not wanting to pay taxes, but he actually made it real for people, the reasons why they needed to get rid of the king.
Yeah, well, I think it was probably the argument that he made, the language that he used. I mean, he spoke in plain language. I mean, the original title for the book was supposed to be Plain Truth.
Oh, really?
Yes, and at the recommendation, supposedly, of Benjamin Rush.
Yeah, that sounds kind of boring, actually.
He went with common sense. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's the story. What's interesting is that Rush, you know, by his own accounts and his correspondence, came up with that title, and also came up with the printer, George Bell, the initial printer, in Philadelphia at the time. So, but I think it was basically he made the arguments, he made them in plain English that people would easily understand. He didn't kind of talk down to people. He just said, this is what you guys need to do. This is why you need to do it. And this is when you need to do it. And the other thing too was that it was kind of a match to a flame that was already burning, if you will, because the war had already started.
Right. That's the thing a lot of people don't realize, and what I appreciated about Ken Burns' series is he spent so much time on everything that was going on before the declaration of war. Yeah.
So stuff is going on for months, but it was like a slow burn, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, he came over at the invitation, or, you know, with the introduction from Franklin. He wanted to get out of England.
It came from Franklin. How did Franklin?
Yeah, he got a letter of introduction. I think they'd met once or something. He got a letter of introduction from him and made his way to Philadelphia.
Yeah, because Franklin was our representative in Britain before these.
That's right. Yeah,
for a long time. That's right.
And so he was coming near the end of his time. He'd spent about 20 years in London, and he was nearing the end of his time, where it was time for him to get out because the Declaration of Independence was coming down the pike, if you will. But this kind of, you know, the idea of him coming over and then writing, he'd been writing in Philadelphia, I think, for the Pennsylvania or Philadelphia magazine. And that was his first job, like as an editor of this local magazine in Philadelphia.
Well, that probably got Franklin's attention.
And so, well, no, I think that's what he started doing. That was his first job when he came to the.
Franklin gave him that job.
But he got the introduction from Franklin, and then he was hired to do this particular editorial gig in Philly.
Can't you imagine those two?
He was a writer, and he came he didn't do much writing in England, but when he came to the U.S., that's when he started kind of putting his thoughts on paper and honing his skills.
Can you imagine those two together? I'd love to see them hanging out. You know, Franklin and Thomas Paine. That must have been a stitch. Those. Yeah.
So I just imagine that he decided, you know, he had things to say. He was looking for an opportunity to say them, and he needed people to help him achieve that. So, being introduced by Franklin to the people in Philadelphia and some of the key founders like Benjamin Rush kind of helped him on his way, and getting him the ability to print the pamphlet. And he'd been writing, he had written American Crisis Part 1 before he'd written Common Sense.
What was that?
I mean, that was just talking about the situation in America prior to, like, the Declaration of Independence. And
was that published in England or
no, in the U.S.
It was
not the U.S. at the time, but in America at the time. Right. Yeah. Then he followed it up with Part 2 after he had written common sense. I mean,
And
he
what?
wrote prolifically through the years.
Yeah, he really did.
And he
I
just
mean, what
kept going.
Age of Reason was what, 3
Yeah.
volumes or something like that? Or,
And he jumped from one thing to the next. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
you know,
and
he had things to say and he was going to say them, and he found people to help him do it. And
yeah,
on he went about his way. And, you know, he was useful to some for certain arguments and not useful in others. And, you know, I think that's why his popularity probably waned a bit, is, you know,
yeah.
because it became more challenging for some, you know, and people were concerned about the revolution in France and how far it was going and
And
how it
one
was.
of the yeah, because was it Edmund Burke that he got in such a fight with over the French?
Well, they're kind of considered the two polar opposites, and you
Yeah,
know, in terms of the content that we found on our site, I mean, they come up together repeatedly as polar opposites.
yeah,
You know, Connor Cruz O'Brien wrote I don't think I actually have it on this page, but he wrote a book about Edmund Burke, and he's written a book about Jefferson. But there's another guy on this page I'm blanking on now who also, I think, compared the two polar opposites, Burke and Paine,
yeah.
because they were in complete disagreement on the French
Yeah.
Revolution.
And one thing that made common sense so unique is, as I understood it, even the Franklin and Jefferson, all they had been careful not to personally attack the king, and
Right.
that is one. But Thomas Paine went there,
Right.
and was kind of
Well, I mean, you think about it, it was treason to
yeah,
even consider, you know, going against the king or the British at the time. So, I mean, the pamphlet was published anonymously, which was a smart thing to do, because
yeah.
if you were caught, you would be hung, drawn, and quartered, most
What
likely.
did it say? Who the author was? What was the
It's said
name?
by an Englishman.
Just by an
So,
Englishman.
yeah. And at the time, some people, I think, had thought that it was Rush or Franklin that was behind it. And to some degree they were, because they were in association with Paine in terms of the introduction of Paine to America, and then Rush helping him publish it and supposedly guiding his hand as he wrote. And so I don't know how detailed that involvement was, but there clearly was an association. But these were Paine's words.
And how did the public react to Common Cause?
I think obviously quite well, because it was a bestseller.
Yeah.
I mean, it sold over 100,000, 120,000 to 150,000 in the first year alone. And a good chunk of that was in the first 3 months after it was published. The second thing is, you know, not everybody could buy books in those days. You know, clearly only those with resources could. But one of the things I think that probably helped this wildfire grow, if you like, was two things. One, it was read aloud to anybody.
In taverns, they'd read it in the bar.
Exactly. And it was also read aloud. George Washington had it read aloud to his troops. And that kind of inspired or encouraged them in the cause. Because if you think about it, back in that time, when they signed up for military service, it was usually only for a year.
Yeah.
And they didn't re-enlist a lot of them. And
some
so over
some
time,
of them just needed the money.
there was no established army per se. There was no draft. It was all voluntary. And Congress didn't want to have a draft. So what they did over time was, I think they had an enlistment for up to 3 years, and that they would be promised land the other side of the Appalachian over time, which had yet to be, you know, discovered beyond the Native Americans that lived there at the time. But there were, you think of the colonies, it was this strip of land down the east coast of America.
Yeah, I actually found records in the Kentucky land grant of my fifth great grandfather, who was in the Revolutionary War, and his payment got 500 acres in Kentucky, which is where my family is still is. Of course, that sounds like a lot, but it was 500 acres nobody wanted.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think of these land grabs or just going out there and putting your stake down. and not knowing exactly what you were getting and how wild it must have been and
Yeah.
dangerous in terms of
Indians.
just
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
was a lot of forest, a lot of wildlife that was dangerous to mankind. You didn't have guns
Yeah.
uh, necessarily available to you. You might, but not necessarily. And you also had to contend with the Native American population that was there that didn't want colonists coming out
Yeah.
to that land that they were inhabiting at that time. So you had all that ahead of you in terms of the development of the country and who was going to develop and who settled on it and when and all that
So what?
stuff.
So Thomas Paine gave them a reason to fight. They didn't know at the time they'd get some land in Kentucky later on. I mean, they needed a more immediate reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we know how it all turned out in terms of the development of the country, but
Yeah.
they didn't know.
Isn't that's
So people tend to
such
forget
a
that.
that's a great historical point about any period of history we look at is we got to remember the people at the time don't know how things turned out.
Right. And we won't know how things will turn out when we're gone.
Yeah.
It's just a snapshot of history. We're here for a while and then we're gone and somebody replaces us.
Right.
And we get to put our stamp on it while we're here, if we're lucky, and then it's over and we're gone and it's somebody else's. We'll just be another picture on the wall. And they had no idea going into it how it would turn out. Or if
Now,
it would turn out.
I just wanted to end with, I want to give people, and I may separate this out as a separate clip, but I want people to get to learn how to get into these video archives on C-SPAN. I mean, you have right up here at the top of just about all your pages, it says quick guide, search the video library.
Yeah.
Up here. But
Yeah.
walk us through a little bit about how, maybe as I want to go find something that, my favorite senator said 20 years ago. I mean,
Well,
that's the kind of thing you can do here.
Yeah, I mean, usually people come with an idea of what they're looking for. They may not know when it happened or who all was involved with the thing, but they might have a name or they might have a topic in mind. So, for example, when I was putting this page together, I just entered Thomas Paine,
Okay.
and I'd write Thomas Paine in there, and I'd just see what would come up. And so a bunch of stuff would come up. And if you want to go ahead and enter that there and just see what you.
I think did I miss
it? Click on videos. See that right over on the left, the tab videos.
Tab videos. Oh, over here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. You see all these different.
So you can search by date over on the if you just.
Oh, there's Common Sense itself.
Yeah. Okay, so a bunch of stuff comes down. If you just scroll up, just go back up a little bit, just a small bit. Yeah. Right. So you see where it says most recent airing here on just center, right of center.
Yes.
Move over here, right of center.
Yeah.
So you down a
mentions
bit.
most recent. Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Most recent airing. Oh,
yeah,
that's a
click
pull
that
down.
drop down menu, and you have a number of options. Here you've got best match, most popular, most viewed, most recent airing, most recent event, least recent. So if you click on least recent.
Oh, I just went to the most recent.
Okay, that's fine. So if you go to most recent, you can see that's the program that we were talking about, Common Sense by Thomas Paine in '76.
Oh, okay. This is the one you just did in
America.
Just did.
And if you just continue to scroll down.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll see all the programs relating to Thomas Paine there in order of when they happened. This is in reverse order because you pick most recent.
Right.
And if you
let's go back and see what happens with. I get my email out of the way. Get most least recent. You're saying?
Yeah, click on, and it's the same list in reverse. Now, what's interesting about this house session here?
Look at that, 1992.
Yeah. So this bill to get a monument for Thomas Paine passed the House and the Senate and was signed by the president. But no monument ever got built.
Is that right?
Yeah. And another attempt was made in 22. I think Jamie Raskin was behind it. And he was also, I think, involved in trying to get a monument for John Adams. And they never made it beyond the House. I think that in the 2022 effort didn't even get out of committee, I believe.
Well, I'll have
So,
to. I'm going to look into
what's
that.
interesting-
Did you
what's
find
interesting
out
is-
why it wasn't built, or
my guess is, and I haven't dug further, but I think it might have been something to do with the language in the bill. Might have said if it isn't done by a time certain, that the monies would go elsewhere or whatever. But I don't know that for sure. But it never happened. And there's still an effort underway to try and get some kind of a monument. But it goes back to that part in the conversation we were talking about as to where he stands in the pantheon of the founding era. And even though he played a pivotal role in galvanizing support for independence,
that's
there's
amazing.
still no monument.
We're still dissing the guy. We didn't even give him a proper burial, much less a monument.
So anyway, but you can put in any particular word there in the search bar.
And then when you get a video up here, I just wanted to talk about, I love this. I think this is the clipping tool.
Yeah. So you have to start playing the video in order for that.
Oh, you have to play the, you start the video.
If you just click on that there. Yeah.
Okay. You have IT
just give it, let the ad go through.
We have IT solutions.
Yeah, you can skip the ad there now.
And then, oh, I see. Yeah, I skipped that. And then
now you see where the clipping tool comes up
there.
there.
And there's the clipping tool. And this, I've used this in the past some, and I just really swear by it. And I try to tell people about it. It's so easy. I mean, it's not a big learning curve. I mean,
no, all you have to do is find the point that you're looking for. So say you want a speech from that particular session of somebody talking about Thomas Paine. You can go and find it, and then you can clip it and tweet it out. That's the old House clerk there. And then I don't know. I can't remember. I recognize the face.
Time for America to keep our own industry.
So here's somebody talking. You can pause that. Yeah. And the clipping tool has already marked that as the start time. Is that what it?
So the 05 is where you were starting. I think when it opened up. But you can see there if you look at 1:38:15 is where he's speaking right now. That guy Douglas Applegate. Just say that was the beginning of his speech. If he started at 1:38 or whatever, and then he finished at 1:40, you would write in the number boxes the start time and the end time. And you could write a title or a description, and then you just scroll down below the box and you see where it says save clip.
Yeah, and then
you'd save it.
Clip.
Yeah.
And then
so the key thing is, you find what you're looking for. If you hone in on a particular video, you set a start time for when you want your clip to start. You set an end time for when you want it to end. You write a description or a title if you want, and then you just hit save. And it's there for posterity. And I mean, thousands upon thousands of people are making clips every day. They're digging in the archives. I'm making clips every day.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. And it's a great research tool. I mean, that's one of the things to mention about this. When this library was set up, it was set up by a professor in Indiana called Robert Browning. And he's still teaching at Purdue, and he works closely with us here at C-SPAN. He's the director of the archive in Indiana. And it was him that came with it, the idea. Like, he was sitting at home watching this stuff that we were carrying the House and all that kind of stuff in the Senate. And he began making audio tapes or videotapes, VCRs.
Really?
Recording. Yeah. And then he approached C-SPAN. He says, I'm making this stuff. I think we should record this and save all these tapes.
Yeah.
And that manifested over time into what we have as the video library today. But his foresight and initiative of himself recording this stuff and then approaching C-SPAN and say, hey, you guys have got a gem here. You need to record this. Yeah. And as you know, Brian Lamb was from Indiana and he went to Purdue.
Yeah.
And so that Indiana connection was there. But if it wasn't for Robert Browning, we may have started this not at all or much later, or till, we don't have everything that we've ever put on because we were reusing tapes in the early days.
Oh, really?
So we blank them and start over. And
you've had everything I've looked for.
Yeah. I mean, we have so much stuff, but it was his foresight and initiative that started this ball rolling.
Yeah.
And it's his pride and joy, and it'll live on. It's a legacy for him and for the country, because it's our history unfolding literally day by day, and you can go back through the decades, through the 46 years of C-SPAN, and even before that, for some of the historical content we've gathered over time, that we've been able to use on our networks and archive on the site. So there's never going to be enough time to watch all there is.
No.
You're going to have a fun time looking for stuff
Yeah.
that interests you,
Oh,
and then finding stuff that you don't expect to find.
Exactly. It's just like any internet searching. I'll get started looking for one thing, and 2 hours later, I've looked at half a dozen other things. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a valuable research tool. I love history.
Oh, yeah.
And I love politics, which is, so it's
What is
perfect
your
for me just
background
being
in?
here.
How long have you been at C-SPAN? Or?
I first started working at C-SPAN in '98,
Uh-huh.
and I left for about 6-7 years in 2007, and then I came back in 2013, 2014, and I've been here since.
And
This is my
what
second
is your
career.
background in interest in history? Did you?
Well, I studied history and politics in college.
Mhm.
I specialized in the American Revolution and the founding era in Belfast, where I went to college.
Oh, wow, in
And
Belfast.
then I did a journalism degree in England, and then I came over to the States in 1993. And my introduction to C-SPAN was I was working in New York, and Mark Fisher was on book notes one night. Mark Fisher, the Washington Post, he's no longer there now, I think. But he had written a book about his time in Germany. It was called After the Wall, about the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I had been working at a hotel restaurant, managing it in Manhattan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I came home late, and I sat down tired as you would, because you're on your feet all day. And I saw this program pop up on my cable television, and it was book notes. And I was drawn into what it was. I was just sitting there drinking a beer, or Sam Adams or something.
Yeah.
Seems appropriate. But anyway, he was turned up the volume, and it was this guy, Mark Fisher. I'd never heard of him. Brian was interviewing him about his time as a correspondent in Germany. And I was fascinated and hooked. And that was my first introduction to C-SPAN. And so that was on August 6th. I was checking this earlier. That was on August 6th, which was a Sunday night. And it was the 11 o'clock airing. I just went back in behind to see when it actually happened. But I did know it was a Sunday night. And it was 1995, a month and a half later, I had moved to Washington and took a job down the other end of the street at the Phoenix Park Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And the Dubliner, just down the street from C-SPAN. So I
Yeah,
took a job there.
Yeah.
And the very first people I met when I was working at the front desk in the hotel were C-SPAN employees, because there was a snowstorm in January, at the beginning of '96, and they had to put some of the staff up in the Phoenix Park. Yeah, it was a really bad snowstorm. And so I got to meet some of the C-SPAN employees there. So how do I get a job at C-SPAN? So it took a while, but
that's great.
a couple of years later, I was at C-SPAN and pretty much there ever since. So I've gone from one end of the block to the other end over the course of the last 30 years.
And from Belfast to the Dubliner.
That's right. Yeah. So,
I'm
Irish, as you can tell.
That could be your autobiography, from Belfast to the Dubliner.
There you go. Yeah. So it's been a fun ride.
This was so much fun. Let's do it again. Now, what do you got coming up at C-SPAN that we want to look for, that you're working on?
Well, I mean, I live in the bloodstream, the daily bloodstream, if you will. So whatever's coming at us, whether it's the politics of the day, whatever Congress is doing, I'm managing and overseeing all the live content. But in terms of, just researching stuff and looking for ideas, I mean, we've got the State of the Union coming up in February.
Oh, that's right.
We have a page put together of all the State of the Unions we have. And I can send
that's
that
a great resource. I've used that video archive for past State of the Unions when I remember Clinton said this or that, and I go back and I find it. Yeah.
Right. And then, we've got MLK, his birthday coming up. So we have a page on that. We put together quite recently a page on Venezuela because of the airstrikes there and whatever's going to happen now. President Trump is meeting with the oil executives today at the White House. So there's so much relevance to whatever's happening now to what happened before.
Yes.
And the good thing about the library, and Howard's very good at this, is that you can find connections between the past and the present, and something that's happening now can bring back memories about something that you might have witnessed or known about or heard about in the past, whether it's, you know, our more modern history, recent history, or at the beginning of our founding or whatever. And as you say, once you start looking, you go down a rabbit hole and you discover so many different things that, so I didn't know this or I didn't know that.
And to that point of the relevance of the past, is this morning when I was going through local media all around the country, pulling video clips for our show today on protests. And I thought, well, this is a good day to think about Thomas Paine, the ultimate protester, the ultimate radical.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because when Brian Lamb was thinking about setting up this network, you know, we were coming out of the Vietnam War and that whole era, like the Vietnam and the protests and all that time. And I remember him talking about how protests would take place in Washington and elsewhere around the country, and how protesters would behave when the cameras showed up. You might be sitting around for a while, and then a TV camera would show up, and then you know, people would start shouting or chanting or whatever. And one of the things that always interested him is that he wanted to show things as they were and as they were happening, and let people make up their own mind. So we've covered any number of protests over the years and rallies and all kinds of other stuff, as you well know. But the idea, the expression that we often joke about at C-SPAN is gavel to gavel. And it might make us boring in the eyes of some, but when it comes to looking for a gem in the haystack, we'll find it, because we have it from the beginning to the end, most likely. If we covered that event. And you can pull out of it what you want. So whether it's a speech or whether it's, you know, a State of the Union address, you know, whatever it is, or a conversation, you'll find something that you're looking for, and then some. And that's the value of the archive. And I think that's why people keep coming back to it, like yourself and so many others, is because it is a treasure trove. It is, and there's so many people that have been involved and worked at it, our folks in Indiana, our folks in Washington, and, you know, we're all just kind of on the same team, moving forward together, trying to get as much content as we can out to our audience and make it available to them and let them do with it and think of it what they will.
As you say, democracy unfiltered.
That's right. That's it. So we just put it out there and let you guys make up your own mind.
That's it. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate.
You're welcome. Lovely to talk to you.
And let's do it again sometime for the next for the next forgotten founder.
All right. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.